It's the 5th of August, and this is your News Bite, brought to you by eNCA.com. I'm Gareth Edwards. In your news today, Julius Mkhwanazi arrested again, Fadiel Adams suspended by Parliament, and Andrea Johnson's credibility comes under fire. Suspended Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department Chief Julius Mkhwanazi has been arrested again. His fourth arrest is in connection with the murder of Emmanuel Mbense, whose body was discovered in the Sparwater Dam in Brakpan in April 2022. Mkhwanazi is among 4 people arrested, including members of the EMPD and SAPS. They are all expected to appear before the Brakpan Magistrates Court on the 6th of August. National Coloured Congress leader Fadiel Adams has been suspended by Parliament for 20 days. The suspension follows a social media post in which Adams shared a screenshot of an email drafted by a Democratic Alliance staff member. The post included the staff member's contact details. The DA's chief whip, George Mikalakis, lodged a complaint with Parliament's Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests. Adams' salary has been docked for 20 days. The committee says it took into account the fact that this is Adams' second breach of Parliament's code relating to the use of social media, making it an aggravating factor when deciding on the penalty. Things are not looking good for former IDAC boss Andrea Johnson. Her integrity has come under serious scrutiny at the Madlanga Commission. IDAC Deputy Investigating Director Peter Serunye painted Johnson as dishonest during his testimony, accusing her of misleading those around her. Serunye says he repeatedly raised concerns about the merits of the case against senior crime intelligence officials. He questioned the strength of the evidence, the corruption charges, and whether the matter even fell within IDAC's mandate. According to Serunye, he communicated these concerns to Johnson several times through emails and memorandums.
She was asked more than once, does this mean no one in your office ever raised concerns about this case, the merits of this case and the mandate of IDAC? And she firmly said, no one ever did. None of the lawyers. What do you say to that?
With respect to Advocate Johnson, I did. I raised, I think earlier we read one of my emails where I referred these queries to her. And it was not only that one email, but there's 2, maybe even 3 others that I referred to her, where even with the Lushaba case. The Lushaba case is worse. That's why I'm saying. So I did. I don't know if maybe
she was not being truthful.
Maybe she did not have my email communications to her, but I did. I raised my.
Do you have reason to doubt? Do you have reason to doubt that she received your emails and your memos?
She received them.
She received them.
I can confirm.
IDAC prosecutor Ramsamy is back on the witness stand at the Madlanga Commission today. Ramsamy has told the Commission she received what she describes as friendly advice early on. She says Captain Mark McLean warned her to be cautious when working with the Eastern Cape team, saying they could ruin her career. McLean, during his own testimony, accused former IDAC head Andrea Johnson of improperly obtaining and disclosing confidential information, including material involving suspended Crime Intelligence Deputy Head, Major General Feroz Khan.
When Captain McLean found out that I was going to be working with Advocate Johnson so closely and with the Eastern Cape team, because he had previously worked with them, and because I was working on multiple matters with him, he called me aside and he spoke. We had coffee and he said to me, "You're naive." And I agreed. I was new to the environment. IDAC was very new to me. I was coming from the regional courts. This was a specialized unit that had its own set of rules. And he said to me, if you don't be careful, if you don't ensure that you document they will ruin your career. And so in a way, it opened my eyes to observing more than believing.
International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has described the war in Sudan as one of the greatest moral failures of our time. He says the humanitarian crisis demands urgent action. Lamola says that Africa will use the upcoming African Union summits to encourage African leaders to take greater responsibility in resolving conflicts across the continent. The AU's two-day summit takes place on the 16th and 17th of August, followed later this month by an extraordinary summit focused on strengthening Africa's conflict prevention and resolution mechanisms.
On peace and security matters, South Africa welcomed the decision to convene an extraordinary summit of the African Union on the strengthening of mechanism for conflict prevention and resolution in Africa from 29 to 30 August in Luanda in Angola. This will allow the continent to give practical expressions to the principle of African solutions for African problems. The conflict in Sudan has become more than just a humanitarian catastrophe. It is one of the biggest moral failures in our lifetime. South Africa will use this platform as a critical opportunity to mobilize the continent towards a structured intervention.
Globally, a coalition of 25 Democrat-led US states is suing the Trump administration over newly imposed tariffs on several countries, including South Africa. The states argue the latest tariffs exceed the president's legal authority. The lawsuit, filed in the US Court of International Trade, seeks to have the tariffs declared unlawful, blocked from taking effect, and for duties paid to be refunded. The White House, however, insists the tariffs are a lawful tool to combat unfair trade practices and forced labor in global supply chains. South Africa is among the countries facing a 12.5% tariff hike over allegations of forced labor within supply chains. Iran says talks with Oman have entered a new phase. The two countries are reportedly close to reaching a bilateral agreement on safe navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. The proposed agreement would see ships entering the Persian Gulf through a new route jointly managed by Iran and Oman. The talks follow months of regional conflict and disruption after US and Israeli strikes on Iran. However, any agreement appears to depend on the United States lifting its blockade on Iranian ports. The Trump administration has previously rejected any deal that would hand Iran greater control over the strategic waterway. Meanwhile, the United States President Donald Trump claims a deal with Iran could come as early as today. He says progress is being made towards reopening the Strait of Hormuz and potentially bringing an end to the conflict. With the US midterm elections quickly approaching, Trump is facing growing pressure to end the unpopular war, which has contributed to rising fuel prices. Iran, however, maintains that its negotiations are taking place only with Oman. In the world of sport, Banyana Banyana's World Cup qualification hopes are still very much alive. The 2022 Women's AFCON champions have turned their campaign around in Morocco and have booked their place in the quarter-finals after a hard-fought victory over Burkina Faso. They also received a helping hand from Ivory Coast, whose win over Tanzania ensured South Africa's place in the knockout rounds. Thembi Kgatlana's first-half strike in Casablanca proved to be the difference. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has rung the changes ahead of South Africa's one-off test against Argentina. There are 13 changes to the side that beat Wales, with several experienced players returning from injury. Captain Siya Kolisi is back, alongside locks Eben Etzebeth and Louis de Jager.
I think the one guy that we don't have to worry about coming back from injury prior to 2023, prior to 2019, Siya had a long-term knee injury. It was always against a race of time, will he be ready? And the way he, because probably of his age and his experience with injuries, I mean, a guy like Sasha is probably new to a big injury like he had, and you learn how to deal with those injuries, and how you get better every single time when you get a big injury, or you know how to rehab, how to handle the pressure and the frustrations and those kind of things that you go through. So I think in that regard, not just playing, Siya's experience with that. He does his rehab really on time. He's very diligent with that. And from our experiences, we've never been unsure when we've selected Siya. He's always delivered. But to answer your question on the timing, again, you know, we've got Marco on the bench, which can go on for him. Same as Eben and Louis, you know, as long as he's productive and delivers on the field, we want to get as maximum minutes. But probably that will also be like a half or a little bit more than a half.
Also returning is fly half Sasha Feinberg-Ngomazulu. He makes his comeback after spending 2 months on the sidelines with an injury sustained while playing for the Stormers. Kobus Reinach partners him at halfback.
Against England, I went to Loftus to go watch that game, and the one thing I think no one can say is the Springbok team functions, whoever's in the picture. So I'm just coming in trying to facilitate that and just keep progressing our game and keep us functioning and taking control of the departments that matter in my position. yeah, I'm really just trying to build again. I don't feel too far behind because I worked really hard in my rehab, but yeah, I'm just trying to build and then build what I can towards the squad.
Ivory Coast will face Algeria in the women's AFCON quarterfinals after finishing top of Group B. The Elephants secured a 2-1 win over Tanzania. The result saw them advance alongside Banyana Banyana. Ivory Coast will now take on Algeria, while South Africa face tournament hosts Morocco for a place in the semi-finals. And that's how we wrap today's Newsbite. For developments on these stories and more, keep an eye on eNCA.com and DSTV channel 403.